It's been another year and another Mr. Hopp's Playhouse game has dropped. And somewhat surprisingly, Moonbit didn't call it Mr. Hopp's Playhouse 3D. Maybe that's like a little cheesy, but it would have felt like a nice throwback to that N64 PlayStation 1 era where games were first being released in 3 dimensions, and any game that was dropping its third entry took maximum advantage of that. How's it going, everyone? My name's Graham, and welcome to Two Left Thumbs. Before going any deeper into things, I have a very special announcement, a tease for an upcoming game that Two Left Thumbs will be publishing. This is being made by the solo developer Jason Lovett, and oh man is he ever doing cool things. Hopefully the footage sorta speaks for itself. We were inspired by games like Roblox's Doors, Phasmophobia, a touch of the Stanley Parable, and using that as a starting point, we're making something that we feel is wholly unique. If that teaser did anything for you, please go wishlist the Doorway Effect over on Steam, and keep an eye out for a public demo coming soon. Back to Mr. Hopp's. The game takes about 2 hours to play through. Things are pretty straightforward, lots of mazes to run through, surprisingly not that many jump scares, but some really cool creature designs and fun world building. If people are excited for it, then I'll probably do a lore video on the whole series. But for now, let's look at the different endings of the game, Easter eggs, and other bonus content. Starting with the 2 different endings. The bad ending is incredibly easy to achieve. You basically just play through the game and make it to the end. Easy peasy. I don't even have to narrate things because it's fully voice acted in these little cutscenes. It's actually very well done.
Where is she?
Young Ruby is right here, safe with me.
Ruby, are you okay?
Young Ruby has come to her senses and is now my subordinate. She no longer wants anything to do with you.
You gave me that toy, Nana. You took my life away from me. You're the reason I'm even here.
Ruby, I never would have given Mr. Hopp to you if I could have helped it. They took control of me. I'm so sorry that I couldn't protect you.
Another lie.
You're still my little gem, right?
Enough of this. You will fall here, Esther.
Nana?
Now, the good ending is a little bit more challenging to achieve. Every section of this game has these little gem shards that you need to collect. The game even plays a little jingle when you've collected every shard in a given area, so it makes it nice and easy to keep track of when you've completed that task. And in the main menu, there is this level select screen that you can move left and right and up and down through, and it specifically shows you whether or not you have collected all the gems. It's made very convenient in that you can jump into those levels, collect all the gems, and then leave without recompleting the level. I'm really appreciative of how easy that was made. Except for this one. This maze is a nightmare. I don't even think it's that difficult, but I had to do it like 50 times. This Jester only moves when you're not looking at him, and he runs through walls. So you're not really looking where you're going through the maze, always trying to keep one eye on where that Jester is coming from so he doesn't catch you. It makes it really hard to keep track of. And for the sake of everyone, I spent a bunch of time running around in this level, mapping out the maze. It was kind of a fun challenge, but oh man, did it take longer than I expected. I'm not quite confident the dimensions of my drawing match because I assume the room is actually a giant rectangle, not this weird whatever shape this is. But I do have a certain degree of confidence that I have the ordering of rooms and walls correct. So you can at the very least keep track of where you are, pay attention to the lefts and rights you need to take, and hopefully you can blitz through this thing in much less time than I did collecting the 3 shards that are hidden within.
Now I hate spiders and carnivores.
For all the rest of them, you just run around the level and they're pretty hard to miss, so you can just go ahead and do that yourself. With all the shards collected, reaching the end of the game, we initiate the good ending.
Where is she?
Young Ruby is right here, safe with me.
Ruby, are you okay?
Young Ruby has come to her senses and is now my subordinate. She no longer wants anything to do with you.
You gave me that toy, Nana. You took my life away from me. You're the reason I'm even here.
Ruby, I never would have given Mr. Hopp to you if I could have helped it. They took control of me. I'm so sorry that I couldn't protect you.
Another lie.
You're still my little gem, right?
Enough of this. You will fall here, Esther. No! You treacherous witch!
Ruby! Ruby, can you hear me? Say something!
Foolish. That compassion you sacred ones insist on carrying is what makes you so weak. You both will die here.
Now, it is you who will experience fear.
And the good ending actually has this pretty dope boss battle at the end. It's not the most complicated, but it just looks cool, and the backing soundtrack of it is kind of phenomenal.
This time, I'll make sure you never come back.
Wow, Nana, you look amazing. I'm sorry I didn't trust you.
Don't be silly. Everything's okay now. I think Mum and Dad are waiting for you up there.
What? You're not coming?
The entity said this place must have a ruler, and someone needs to keep all these souls in check. Besides, there's no place for an old girl like me on the surface anymore. I will watch over all of you, always.
Goodbye, Nana.
I am so proud of you, Esther.
Now we need to go hunting for the different secrets and Easter eggs hidden around the game. I believe there are more here than there have been in any previous Mr. Hopp's title, and oh my god, they're so much harder to find this time around. I don't know if Moonbit got better at hiding these things, or if it's just a little harder to search for those hints and secrets when things are in a third dimension, but I only found a couple of these myself. I had to otherwise consult the community and what other people were able to find on their own. Luckily, we can go through the level selection to specifically pick out the levels we want to go hunting for these Easter eggs, starting with 1B. We basically just need to run through this entire section. There aren't that many locations to go, so you just keep pushing through. Ignoring side doors, we can go to the main set of double doors that take us to the lobby of the Blacklands Manor. Take the left elevator up. There is a stool off to the side here that we can push along. It's a little janky, it often goes into the wall. We are just pushing this straight down the hallway, and if you ever do get interrupted by this big demon, you can just run back and take the elevator down, then back up. It won't be reset. The guard will wander away, the stool will remain where it was, and you can proceed directly from where you left off. This is one of the more annoying ones to do because the guard does patrol around the area we directly need to be working in. Once we've got the stool in place pushing down that button, you may need to wait for the guard to wander away since he's kind of directly in the way. But once you've made it to the end of the hallway, we have this newly revealed room, a gift to grab, a Mr. Hopp sign that can be flipped around and turned into Ruby's face. The green grass, the checkered walls, the flippable sign, all of that is directly in reference to Sonic the Hedgehog. Next can be accessed through 1F. Push through the beginning hallway, go through the first door, and off to the left, down its own separate hall, there is a red room with these flowers on the wall, I guess is what they are. Just to make sure you have the right room. There is a plant in the corner and a fake wall that you can simply walk straight through. Within that, there is a switch on the wall that we need to flip, and then continue pushing forward towards the end of the level. A good landmark is this record player that you can hear playing some quiet music, and around the corner, we have this room where the bookcase has now slid out of the way to reveal this pink brick, a sweater on the wall, and a little yellow flower. This is, of course, all done in reference to Undertale. The pink brick of the ruins, Frisk's sweater, and a stand-in for Flowey. It's funny to think of myself explaining that to people who have potentially been following this channel for a very long time. I've been taking a bit of a break from it, but I promise I will get back to covering more Undertale and Deltarune related content soon enough. The next secret will be found in 2A. Again, just start running through everything. There aren't that many different paths you need to go through. Run through the area with the narrow paths and all the green ooze. Once you've made it to the other side of that, there are a few guards wandering around that you're going to want to keep an eye out for. They will chase you. Don't head up the stairs, stay on the main floor, and keep pushing ahead. The guards won't actually chase you through these doors, so you might find it useful to lure one to one side and then kind of wrap around it. Just leave him ditched off in the corner there. Off to the side here, after you find this painting, there is a barrel in the hallway. We are going to want to push that all the way to the other end of the hall. We are going to need to push it through the doorway, so you might want to take a bit of time to line things up accordingly. It can be a little tough to do these sliding movements and not have things get caught on walls. It's pretty common. It's this room with the rotating puzzle. Off in the corner, you can see a little button on the floor, as long as I can get the camera pointed at it. That guy right there. We want the barrel on top of that. Once that is activated, we need to head backwards to the narrow paths and green ooze. And off to one side, there will now be a previously covered up section of the wall that is now opened up. We have this giant pizza room that has 3 floating pizzas. There's a chance that Moonbit is just a big fan of pepperoni pizzas. But with the green ooze, it does make me think of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but basically nothing else about any of this points towards that specific reference. So, I think it's just pizza for the sake of pizza.
Pizza time.
Next, we will head to 2C. This is the one where you need to activate the 3 switches. So first thing, we need to start the chase sequence with Mr. Hopp. It opens up all the curtains, and then you simply run through in search of the various switches. I don't have any super reliable tips for finding the switches. I find a very simple method for working through things like this, mazes in games, is to pick a wall and effectively trace it So you're always sticking to something on your left, working your way through, only following turns when they present themselves, and sooner or later by doing that, you will eventually trace the entirety of the maze. You may need to eventually change and start tracing an internal wall, but through this method alone, you will sooner or later get to every single switch. It has the added benefit of effectively ensuring you're always running away from Mr. Hopp. You're just continually making linear progress. And so the odds that you actually run into him while doing this are quite small, and if you ever do, it's very easy to hear him coming and then avoid him again. But oh god, don't get caught or else you'll reset your progress. Once you've flipped all 3 switches, make your way back towards the middle of things, in between the area that has the red wallpaper and the one with the green, and there is instead this wood-paneled hallway. There are 2 curtains that have not been raised, one of which has a secret entrance behind it. On the other side, we have a button that can be pushed. Be careful leaving the curtained room, because if you take the wrong turn, you will end the level and initiate the next sequence. Just make sure you take a left when coming out of the curtained area, and you'll be fine. Heading back to the green wallpapered half, we need to again find one of those 2 switches. I did not really memorize the layout of this, so I couldn't tell you precisely which one, but it's relatively easy to find, especially since you're no longer being chased. And there is now a revealed room that is a reference to One Piece. We have the oranges on the table, Luffy's straw hat, and the 3 katanas for 3 sword style fighting. No, unfortunately we can't wear the hat directly, but I can make it look like I'm wearing the hat. And that's good enough for me. I find the one at 2D to be among the easiest ones to get through. Basically, we're running straight ahead, take the first right that you can, and sort of hook back around, making sure you're going the way you came, past this little waterfall. There is a steel door at the end of the hallway here, and there is a room with a note and a lone pillar. The wall behind the pillar can be interacted with and pushed out of the way. We have this blue paneled room with these teal steel blocks, all done to reference the design of Wolfenstein 3D. I actually really like that as an homage, considering that pushing fake walls around was a key part of finding secrets in Wolfenstein. So I just think that's really clever to tie that in here. Next, we need 3A. This one has more steps than any other. We need to run down this hallway, take a left, and do a similar maneuver to the last one, hooking back around from the direction we came. There's a door at the end of that hallway, which has a switch in the corner behind the door. Push on through the level past the pendulum, which will lead us to this big open library type area. Tucked away in the corner next to all the busts is the next switch that needs to be pressed. I don't think the order matters, but it's just kind of logical to work through it in this way. Next, we're heading down this new separated hallway. Make your way to the bathroom, which you would normally have to go to regardless to advance the plot. Do a crouch and pick up the glass shards. Head up the staircase to that purple wall that needs to be cut open to advance to the next area. Once we're through there, you can only head right or left. To the left, there is a lone switch, and we need to head back through that little purple doorway. Heading back to this offshoot of the library, we need to instead head to the bedroom. There is a locked door in the corner that, through activating those buttons, will now be usable. Inside, we have this checkerboard, rainbow, placeholdery type aggressive over-the-top pattern, and this face on an egg, which is a joke on being an Easter egg, a self-insert for the developer having his own face on said Easter egg, and a reference back to a specific secret that could be found in Mr. Hopp's Playhouse 2. 3D is actually, I think, the absolute easiest of any of these to do. When you push straight forward, you need to shoot your way through this wall. There will be a big open room with a monster that needs to be killed. He's pretty easy to avoid. He only needs to be shot 3 times, and if you head to the little corner he walked out of, you can interact with this wall and open up a room with Hopp's beans. I don't know why it's a room where everything is textured like beans with a giant can of beans. None of it makes much sense to me, but I do find it just generally quite funny. Next, we head to 4A. We need to push through quite a lot of this level, starting with shooting that wall away. Make sure to impress Ruby along the way. That's not actually a critical step, it just happens on its own. You actually don't even need to destroy these tentacles to advance through this part, you can just keep running past everything. Immediately to the right of where Mr. Hopp is banging his head against the wall, take another right here, there is a room, it has a couple tentacles in it, and there is a locked door in the corner. I genuinely don't know how people figured this one out because there's really nothing hinting towards this or indicating that you're doing something that you're supposed to. No visuals, no audio cue, really nothing. But when wandering these halls, you need to use an energy blast on both the painting of the lemon and fruit and on the painting of a somewhat old-timey looking village. Now the door will be unlocked, and we have a narrow hallway with a green pipe at the end of it, directly referencing Mario. You cannot interact with the pipe, you can't go down it or anything, which is a little bit disappointing. And our final Easter egg is hidden behind 4D. You can race through the majority of this level, which includes skipping through talking to the entity. It's a shame that you have to go through that entire cutscene and wait for things to switch back to Esther. It takes a minute, but otherwise it's quite simple. We simply run through things until we've entered this sort of grand hall. You'll know you're in the right place when Isabelle chimes in and speaks to us. After that, take the stairs and head to the doorway on the right. At the end of that hallway, we have our next door, and inside of this bedroom, you can interact with the bookcase. Upon doing so, we have the classic Matrix binary rain scrolling across the walls. It just kind of looks neat. And we can grab up the last of our gifts. With all 9 of those collected, we can head to the special treasure room. And each of the gifts will have adorned the room with various decorations for us. We have little plushies of the main 3 monsters, as well as those for Esther, Ruby, and Isabelle. We then have the main posters for all 3 games on the walls as well. Playing the different arcade games in this room requires collecting red keys from around the game. I found these to be incredibly easy to find. I actually acquired all of them just by playing through the game. I wasn't specifically hunting for anything. They aren't hidden behind secret walls, nothing crazy like that. So if you're already thoroughly exploring levels looking for those gem shards, you're gonna find the keys as well. And I'm actually going to play a little bit of each of these games, just to show you what you have in store. I imagine a lot of people don't care about optional arcade content, so really quickly, one more time, please do head over to the doorway effect on Steam and add that to your wish list. I'll say here, basically everything you're seeing is a placeholder. We're really trying to play around with the concept, push things, and explore new ideas. And while games like Doors and Phasmophobia were a good starting point to lay down the concept and work on some important back-end things for the procedural generation and online multiplayer, expect that by the time a public demo is available in the relatively near future, the game will look entirely different. Right now, we just want to get people excited about the idea of a co-op horror roguelike experience. We think it's going to be really special, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. Back to some goofy Mr. Hopp's arcade action. There is Hopp Shootout, Hopp Skydrop, Hopp's Hoops, which is fun to say, and Hopp Comets. They're all basic, simple arcade games, the sort of thing that you would come across in, like a Chuck E. Cheese or something similar. I'm pretty bad at most of them. I did eventually find a pretty good rhythm for Hopp's Hoops, but I'm pretty sure the pace changes the more you've sunk, and so I totally lost it after that. And it's one of those things where once you've lost it, it's damn near impossible to get it back. So my personal best was 18, which doesn't seem that great in 1 minute's time. Hopp's Comets is more survival based. You just have to not get killed by these falling asteroids. There's no timer, just last as long as you can. Any single hit you take is an instant game over, so you gotta be pretty careful. It's 10 points for breaking a big one, 5 points for breaking the little ones, and it never really gets any harder, more complicated, no power-ups, nothing much of anything going on there. My goal was to get at least 420, and then I was just gonna stop there. I didn't want to take that many attempts at it, and then out of nowhere I went on a roll, and so my personal best is 655. That should be insanely easy to beat. In Hopp Skydrop, you have to avoid these spikes and gather up the falling eggs. If you allow the eggs to touch the surface, they will destroy it, eventually getting rid of your platform. Now and again, things spawn in a rather impossible placement, and you have no choice but to die in order to grab the egg. Such is the nature of randomized arcade titles. So it's a little bit skill, but it mostly comes down to you having the luck that you don't get stuck with a bunch of eggs and spikes spawning on top of each other where they destroy the platform or you die. For that reason, this was probably my least favorite of the mini-games, because so little of what was happening felt inside of my control. So I died at 41 and decided to call it quits there. And Hopp Shootout. Hopp Shootout was about 10,000 times easier to do with a mouse, so I ended up opting for that. You have to shoot any of the red scary faces that pop up. The green ones give you points. If you shoot the yellow ones, then you lose points. And after about 3 attempts here, I managed to get 395. Whatever, I'll just call that my best, I guess. I generally like the idea of including these arcade-like games as freebies packaged within the larger product, just something to mess around with. For these 4 games, they were very simplistic, potentially just an excuse to mess around with different ideas and mechanics within this engine, but due to their simplicity, I didn't really feel compelled to play any of them more than a couple times just to see what it had to offer. So I would say don't expect to get a lot of mileage out of these secret arcade bonus games. It's been really cool to see how this game has evolved and taken shape across the entirety of the series, but I had a few frustrations with this one that I expressed and summarized across my own Let's Play series of this game. It's still fun and is especially going to appeal to fans of the larger series, but I'm kind of excited that Moonbit is planning to branch out and work on non-Mr. Hopp's games for a little while. I'm excited to see what they do, working in new mediums and genres, potentially learn and refine a few things along the way, and then circle back to Mr. Hopp somewhere down the line, and try to really push the limit and take this franchise in bold new directions. Mr. Hopp's 3 being in 3D was a great step forward, and I'm excited to see where it can go from here. Go wishlist the Doorway Effect, let me know if you'd like to see a Mr. Hopp's lore video, and I hope to see you all again soon.